Hello Orchid friends, how are you? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time watching my video, my channel is all about orchids. From what orchids I have, how I grow them, my thoughts on certain orchid topics, to what orchids in my collection are blooming, etc. So if you want to follow along my orchid hobby adventure, please consider subscribing to my channel and turn on the notification. Today in this video, we're going to look at my tetraspis C1. So this video is more or less of a bloom video compilation from all its previous bloom in 2018 as well as blooms in 2019. This is a request video almost because I have a lot of new subscribers who are new to orchids and they're fascinated by my tetraspis C1. So they asked me to make a video to show them in one video of all the blooms that this orchid has given me thus far. So if we go back in time, March 2018, I think that was the first ever video I made on my tetraspis C1, and at the time I think it was blooming with 5 or 6 flowers. So that was the first bloom video I did on this orchid, and then pretty soon, 6 months later, this orchid was in bloom again. Along the way, it had a couple buds blasted or dried up, and then eventually it gave me 2 blooms, and one of them was almost red and the other one had red and white combo. And then came November 2018, and this orchid at the time was in bloom with also 2 flowers, but this time it's a very interesting combo. So the one on the left has 1 white petal on the far left, sepal, and then the one on the right is 4 white plus 1 red, and the red is also at the bottom right. But then beginning of 2019, mid-January, I begin to realize that 2 older spikes are turning yellow. So I had to make a decision, or I guess make an assumption. Either this is natural because these are the 2 oldest spikes, or this orchid is having root issues that I should probably take a closer look at. So I took a chance because it was winter time in my environment, but I decided to pot this orchid just to take a look at what's happening inside the media. And for those of you who may be new to this orchid hobby, I think I should add this as a reminder. Winter time is never really a really ideal time to repot your orchid, unless it is completely stressed out with serious pest or root problem that you cannot wait until, say, springtime or summertime to repot the orchid. Because when you repot orchids at the wrong time, you may potentially do more damage than good. So I just want to put it out there that whenever you repot your orchid, unless it's for emergency, you do it in winter time, you're really risking quite a bit. So I was right, some of the roots were not good inside the media, but it still had some okay roots. I mean, the amount of roots, I was not impressed with the amount of roots I saw, but for the amount of roots that were still viable, I think this orchid is completely safe, salvageable, right? So I continue to use hydrocorn. So this is the kind of media I like to use for semi-hydro setup, hydrocorn, and then it's actually a mixture of hydrocorn and manto clay, and I think the hydrocorn ratio is 2 and manto clay ratio is about 1, just so that it has a little bit of both, but then not be too airy. So this is the level of the reservoir, and I fill the bigger pebbles with I fill the reservoir with bigger pebbles, and then I gradually put all the roots inside the cup before I pour in more media. And here you can see some of the roots had development had a little bit of rupture. That's okay, because for the first few days, as long as you don't make it too wet, that would those open wound would easily dry and scab over, so it wouldn't be that big of a deal. And because the way the spikes were, I had to find a way to stabilize or prop up the spikes. So I decided to just drill a hole, put a wire through, and basically make a small hook or something for the spikes to rest on, so that way they're not really dangling along the edge of the cup to the surface area that I place my orchid on. And it's just a way to make it neat, so that way I save a little bit more horizontal space for other orchids. When I received enough requests about wanting to see tetraspis C1 in a more compiled manner to see their blooms, I was wondering why they would want to do that. And then I remembered the time when I was really new to orchid and I saw somebody with a tetraspis C1. I was completely interested, because I was completely captured by the way that the flowers looked, because you would have red and white, but then they're random each time. So it was, I think it's because of that all my new subscribers who sent in the request want to see a video like this. So after the repot, the orchid continued to grow really well, because I saw signs of the spikes elongating and trying to put out more buds toward the end of January 2019, and this is beginning of February 2019. You could see that there were obviously buds forming, and I could also see that there were roots that were inside the media continuing growing further down. So I knew that this orchid did not set back, or did not get set back due to the repot in winter time. Now I have to fast forward until mid-June 2019, because I could not find the bloom photos of the January-February bloom cycle for the life of me. Like, I could not find them. So knowing myself and how I keep track of bloom photos, those buds probably just never came to bloom, and that's maybe why I did not have records of them. So apologize in advance, but now we're in mid-July 2019, and it was forming a couple buds, but eventually I only really had this one bud that finished growing and bloomed for me. And at the time, I was just moving to my new house. Yes, I bought a house end of May. So from that point onward, for the videos that I made after that point, you'll see probably different background, and that's because I have a new grow space, I have a new house. So during that time, some transport and then new environment, so that could be the reason why that other buds simply didn't make it, and only this flower opened. Gosh, I forgot to add that in my Chinese video, so people are probably wondering if they noticed that the background changed. But anyway, so this is the only flower that came out of the mid-June, July bloom cycle. But all in all, I think this orchid is a very interesting orchid, and I still think it's one of my favorite orchid species. In fact, it's one of my favorite orchids in my collection, just because of its random color distribution for the bloom. You never know what you're gonna get. You might be able to guess when the buds are big enough, but then when they open, there's always surprises. So in terms of care, before I finish this video, I want to just share with you quickly about the care I give to this orchid. So quarter strength fertilizer, this orchid has always been given quarter strength fertilizer, and with semi-hydro setup, that means I would give fertilizer every 7 days or so in summertime, and then every 2 weeks in wintertime in my environment. And once a month, I would always, at least once a month, use just pure water to soak this orchid, to, in a way, quote unquote, flush this orchid. But I don't ever like to put my orchids under a faucet to flush. So soaking is my flush in my dictionary. If you don't have this orchid in your collection, it's not an expensive orchid. I totally think you should get one for yourself to test it out and see if it's for you. I think you'll like it. This is all I have for you today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to get more orchid related videos from my channel, please subscribe and turn on the notification. I want to wish you happy growing, and I will talk to you in my next video. Ciao!